We begin this hour with a new threat from President Trump against Iran. With negotiations to end the war and reopen the Strait of Hormuz going nowhere, the president says Tehran must act fast or, quote, there won't be anything left of them. This latest warning comes after officials in the United Arab Emirates said a drone strike caused a fire at a nuclear power plant there on Sunday. No one was blamed for that. This continued closure of the strait, plus fears of renewed hostilities, are pushing oil prices higher this morning, and that's keeping the price of gas and other daily necessities high here at home. NBC News Washington correspondent Alice Barr joins us now with the very latest. Alice, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. The ceasefire with Iran that President Trump recently said was on life support is showing new signs of strain this morning, with fresh attacks on Gulf neighbors and negotiations stuck in a stalemate. President Trump this morning is refocused on Iran and renewing his threats, posting that the clock is ticking and the regime better get moving fast or there won't be anything left of them. That amid Israeli media reports the president spoke to Prime Minister Netanyahu. On Friday, President Trump saying this about Iran.
We left their bridges. We left their electricity capacity. We can knock that all out in 2 days.
The ramped-up rhetoric comes as U.S. ally the United Arab Emirates said a drone strike sparked a fire at a nuclear power plant, calling it a dangerous terrorist attack, while Saudi Arabia said it intercepted multiple drones. Both have been frequent targets of Iran in a standoff over the Strait of Hormuz, with negotiations to end the war appearing stalled.
They don't know how to make a deal.
President Trump rejected Iran's last offer, saying it didn't deal with the nuclear threat. Senator Lindsey Graham, a close Trump ally, urging him to renew attacks on Iran.
I think the status quo is hurting us all. The longer the strait is closed, the more we try to pursue a deal that never happens, the stronger Iran gets. So what do you do next? You weaken them further.
As the unrest keeps forcing gas prices higher, the impact is trickling through the U.S. economy.
Price of gas goes up, everything goes up.
This family-owned grocery and deli in Wisconsin is fighting to avoid raising prices for customers.
Watching tomatoes triple in price from over the course of 1 month, that's pretty crazy. I mean, I have not seen that before.
While rising tensions raise the risk for more fallout. And President Trump and his allies keep making the case that prices are going to drop once the war is over. But as we edge closer to the November midterm elections, Democrats are promising to hammer the issue of affordability more and more. Joe?
Alice, what are we hearing from Iran about all this, and just where do things stand on those Pakistan brokered peace talks?
Yeah, we did hear from Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson who appeared to respond to President Trump's new threats today. He said that Tehran was not intimidated, but he also said the process of talks and negotiations are still ongoing. He was speaking to a news briefing and said the regime had now responded to a new U.S. proposal that Tehran would be monitoring all movements and was prepared for any possibility should there be action on the U.S. On these threats President Trump is making. He said if there's even the slightest mistake, we know very well how to respond. John.
All right. Alice Barr, thank you so much. As we just heard in Alice's piece there, South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham is urging President Trump to resume attacks on Iran. At the same time, more and more GOP voters say they're unhappy with the president's handling of the war, with the midterms just around the corner. Meet the Press moderator Kristen Welker spoke with Senator Graham. Here's Kristen with more of that conversation.
Senator, you take me to my next question, because 70% of Americans in a new poll say President Trump is doing a bad job on the economy, the number one issue for voters, as you know. Bottom line, is it worth losing the midterms if the result is a non-nuclear Iran?
It's worth losing my job. If I had to give my job up to make sure Iran would never have a nuclear weapon, I would do it.
Would you give up the House and the Senate?
I would give up politically. The most important thing I can do with the job I've been given is to protect the American people. Now, you don't have to agree with me, but I've been this way for 20 years. I believe they're religious Nazis in Iran. If they had a nuclear weapon, they would use it. They've been trying to get one. They've been cheating. Obama and Biden were jokes when it came to containing Iran. Trump is doing something people should have done a long time ago. But here's the good news. Gas prices will come down when you put Iran in a box. Saudi-Israel peace will become possible when you put Iran in a box. The upside of dealing with Iran is enormously good, but you got to deal with them.
Staying in Washington, a blowout primary loss is ending the career of a longtime Republican lawmaker. Senator Bill Cassidy lost his party primary in Louisiana on Saturday. Trump-backed Representative Julia Letlow and State Treasurer John Fleming are now projected to face off in a runoff at the end of June. It's another win for President Trump in his quest for revenge against Republicans he views as disloyal. Cassidy was one of 7 Republicans who voted in 2021 to convict Mr. Trump on impeachment charges for inciting an insurrection on January 6th. More recently, Cassidy, a medical doctor, has sparred with Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. over vaccine policies and other public health issues. In a post to Truth Social after Cassidy's loss, President Trump said, quote, "It's nice to see that his political career is over." NBC News political reporter Megan Leibowitz joins us now from Washington with more on this. Megan, good morning. So why does this race matter, and just what does Senator Cassidy's loss tell us about the current political climate here?
Hey, Joe, good morning. Yeah, this is part of this broader trend of politicians who have crossed President Trump getting voted out of office after President Trump has urged his supporters to oust his political opponents and instead to support politicians who are loyal to him. Now, a defining moment in the relationship between Senator Cassidy and President Trump came years ago when Senator Cassidy had voted to convict President Trump on those impeachment charges following the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Now, fast forwarding to today, just 2 of the other 6 Republican senators who had voted to convict President Trump are still in office, and just 2 of the 10 House Republicans who had voted to impeach President Trump are still in office as well. Now, looking ahead, too, there's also another really interesting primary to watch just tomorrow when Republican Congressman Thomas Massie of Kentucky will also face a primary. Massie, too, has clashed with President Trump, and in return, President Trump has urged his supporters to vote out Massie. So another really interesting primary to keep an eye on amid this larger context of people who have criticized President Trump getting voted out of office, Joe.
As for Senator Cassidy, I mean, he still has several months left in this term. How is he responding?
Yeah, so he made a speech on Saturday night where he seemed to criticize President Trump, though he did not explicitly name President Trump. In that speech, he had said that the country isn't just about one person, but it's about the welfare of all Americans and about the Constitution. And he had said that if someone did not understand that and instead tried to use power to exert control over others, he said that that person then would not be qualified to be a leader, and that person would be about themselves. Take a listen to what else he had to say in that Saturday speech.
When you participate in democracy, sometimes it doesn't turn out the way you want it to. But you don't pout, you don't whine, you don't claim the election was stolen, you don't find a reason why. You don't manufacture some excuse. You thank the voters for the privilege of representing the state or the country for as long as you've had that privilege. And that's what I'm doing right now.
That comment about you don't claim that an election was stolen seemed to be criticism of President Trump, who has repeatedly falsely claimed that the 2020 election was that he won the 2020 election when it was won by former President Biden. Now looking ahead, the runoff election will take place on June 27th, Joe.
All right, Megan, and not a politician, but another person President Trump at least perceives as an opponent is former FBI Director James Comey. He's now facing his 2nd indictment in just 2 months from the Trump administration's Justice Department, this time over a social media post the DOJ alleges is a death threat to the president. He appeared on Meet the Press yesterday. Comey had this to say.
The President of the United States cannot use the Justice Department to target people because he wants to retaliate against them. That is not just wrong, it's a way in which our system cannot operate and be effective.
Does it make you and your family fearful?
No, because I know what I'm dealing with. Someone who's announced he's now the hunter. Okay, let's go.
So, Megan, bring us up to speed on this case and just what it tells us about how President Trump is using the DOJ in his second term.
Yeah, so this case is also part of a broader trend of the Justice Department under President Trump at targeting President Trump's political opponents. So Comey isn't the only person. The Justice Department has also brought charges against former National Security Advisor John Bolton and New York Attorney General Letitia James, for example, though that case was later tossed by a judge. But in his interview with Meet the Press, Comey had also said that he still has complete faith in the judicial system, and he again said that he's not just not guilty, but that he's innocent, saying again, let's go. And so looking forward, he also declined to get into specifics about that case as well, because the case is still ongoing, Joe.
All right, Megan Leibowitz, thank you so much. This morning, 49 million Americans are under the threat of extreme weather as a line of strong storms moves across the country. Overnight, the Midwest saw several tornadoes and quarter-inch size hail, damaging dozens of homes there. Crews in the Great Lakes and out west are facing a different problem. They're trying to get a handle on several wildfires, like this one, California's Santa Rosa Island off the coast of Santa Barbara. Wildfire there has scorched more than 10,000 acres since breaking out Friday afternoon. NBC News meteorologist Andrea Romero will have your forecast in a moment. First, though, NBC News national correspondent Morgan Chesky has the latest on the damage from the storms and the fires.
From dangerous storms to fast-moving fires, millions from coast to coast bracing for severe weather. This line of thunderstorms making for a menacing skyline in Kansas. Dark clouds unleashing a flurry of hail, some as big as golf balls. The rising threat for damaging storms now impacting an estimated 17 million people, with tornado potential high. This twister churning through Iowa Saturday, 1 of 4 confirmed. Look at this. Farther north, flames forcing Minnesota's governor to call in the National Guard to help contain an outbreak of multiple fires. Flames scorching thousands of acres. Here you can see the sky burning orange, sirens blaring, and police launching an investigation, looking for whomever opened fire striking this fire suppression plane. The sheriff says no one was hurt. Meanwhile, in Texas, crews able to slow the spread of the Hungate fire outside Amarillo.
There were parts of it that were just so fast moving that it was hard to comprehend.
Shelby Crow's home survived, but she's still uneasy.
How did it feel knowing it was that close?
Nerve-wracking. I am where my mom evacuates to, and my mom is where I evacuate to. So for both of us to be in the same predicament at the same time, it was nerve-wracking.
The fire threat stretching all the way to California, where it's already feeling like summer.
Meanwhile, in the Northeast, people are staring down a days-long heat wave, with some areas expecting temps to hit the high 90s. Morgan Chesky, NBC News, Los Angeles.
All right, let's get a closer look at what to expect with those scorching temps and the risk of more severe storms in the forecast. It's time for your Morning News Now weather with meteorologist Andrea Romero. Andrea, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. And this morning we are tracking a line of storms that's moving here through the central part of the country. And fortunately, we have no reports of severe weather at this moment, but we do have some strong storms with lightning here beginning to move into the Springfield and Quincy area. The bad news is that this system will only intensify throughout the day. The risk of severe weather will be higher this afternoon and tonight. 49 million people are at risk for tornadoes, strong to intense tornadoes, so we could have another outbreak today, especially here in parts of Kansas, Nebraska, and also Missouri. The threat of damaging hail, wind gusts of over 75 miles per hour is possible for this region, and the tornado risk, EF3s, here from Wichita to Kansas City. We're looking at the possibility of EF2, and these could be long tracking tornadoes that can be covering a large amount of area. So today's one of those days you want to make sure you have a way to receive those weather alerts. You want to have those plans in place in case you do have to seek shelter. And aside aside from the severe thunderstorm risk and that severe weather, we also have the risk of flash flooding for especially parts of Missouri. We're looking at hourly rainfall rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour. And between today into tomorrow, we're expecting perhaps locally 5 to 7 inches of rainfall that could fall across this area. Tomorrow, the cold front responsible for this severe weather will be shifting to the east. A large area of severe thunderstorms is also possible all the way from Texas up into Vermont, but the risk will be a little bit less than today. Tomorrow, we're not looking perhaps so much as those big tornadoes that could develop today, but we're looking more of the risk of wind gusts and damaging hail, but it could extend over this wide area. So another day where we're going to be concerned with this severe weather. And of course, we have that record heat that Morgan was talking about here in the Northeast. It's more like summer. We're looking at temperatures that could be record high temperatures for today into tomorrow. Perhaps the worst of the heat here, especially along the Northeast. We're looking at temperatures over 20 degrees above average for this time of year, in the 90s. Along the coast, we could have a little bit of a cool down with that breeze that can develop in the afternoon, but we're still looking at really high temperatures. And as that front continues to move on eastward, the temperatures will cool down. We're going to say goodbye to the heat later on this week. Unfortunately, just in time for the holiday weekend, we're looking at temperatures Friday, perhaps in the 60s here in parts of New York, in the 70s, in Norfolk, in Buffalo, 68 degrees. So it will be a cool down that we will be feeling for the next couple of days. And as far as the fire alert, we do have that risk. 11 million people under those red flag warnings in California, stretching all the way here into parts of Oklahoma and Kansas, New Mexico. So you want to make sure you take care in those locations. And on top of this all, we're talking about heat. We're talking about severe weather, flash flood, and we even have some snow that's falling here west of Denver into the Rockies. We have those winter weather advisories, even winter storm warnings in effect for parts of Wyoming into parts of Colorado, where we could see snowfall amounts through tomorrow that could be over 10 inches. So we have a lot to talk about, Joe, as far as the weather. We're tracking a lot of systems. But of course, today, the main concern is that severe weather that we're expecting in parts of the plains and the Midwest.
A little bit of something for everyone. All right, Andrea, thank you so much. A major evidence ruling is expected later today in the state case against accused CEO killer Luigi Mangione. The judge will decide whether prosecutors can use key evidence that was seized during Mangione's arrest in Altoona, Pennsylvania, back in December of 2024. That evidence includes a firearm, notebooks, electronic devices, and statements allegedly made to investigators. Now, today's decision could shape the course of his upcoming state trial in September. Mangione is facing 9 felony charges. That includes second-degree murder for the shooting death of former United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. The New York State case carries the possibility of life in prison. Today's ruling could also affect Mangione's federal trial, which is expected later this year. He has pleaded not guilty to all charges. NBC News legal analyst Danny Ceballos is here with more on these court proceedings. Danny, good to have you with us. So today's hearing we expect to be maybe half an hour long, comes after that December hearing lasted 9 days, really addressing the issues of should the evidence still be allowed? Was it gathered unconstitutionally? Walk us through what the judge has to consider here and what you expect he's going to decide today.
The judge is considering whether to suppress statements and physical evidence, including the handgun and the other things we saw up there on the screen. Now, the way this works is our society, our judicial system has come up with a remedy. If police violate your constitutional rights, what's the remedy? Well, we've decided we don't throw the entire case out. We don't fine the police. The remedy is we take that evidence, that fruit of the poisonous tree, and it gets thrown out of the case. Now, if you're just playing the odds, this motion is likely to be denied and the evidence will come in. For 2 reasons. Number one, these motions are rarely granted. I've filed hundreds of them. I've maybe had 5 or 6 granted in my lifetime, in my career. Judges don't like granting them because, by definition, they let a guilty person go free. They suppress incriminating evidence. So it's something that judges generally don't like to grant. But the second reason is we've had another court, a federal court, already decide the exact same motions, and that motion was denied. And I think in the back of the judge's mind, do you really want to be inconsistent with the federal court on this? And do you really want to suppress any of this evidence? So likely, my bet, everything comes in.
That being said, if some of the evidence, all of the evidence is thrown out by this judge, what would that mean for the prosecution's case? I mean, what's the worst case scenario here?
It would be a huge victory for the defense because, and I say that, what I mean there is that the defense has done an admirable job fighting tooth and nail at every point on what a case that really, by any accounts, is a loser for the defense. This is a really tough case if they're going to try and win it, but they've chipped away at it. Even though it would get rid of the firearm and some of the manifesto and some of the writings, they still have a lot of evidence in the way of surveillance video that tracked Luigi Mangione or allegedly tracked him all around the city. They've got a ton of other evidence. If that evidence is out, it's not great for the prosecution, but the case goes on.
A reminder, this today is the state trial. The decision here, could it have any influence at all on the federal trial, which right now is slated to go after, right?
Virtually none, because we live in a system of separate sovereigns, literally separate kingdoms. We have a federal system and a state system. And it's really not that common for there to be two simultaneous federal and state prosecutions for the same conduct. The defense has criticized that move by the federal government. And frankly, I agree. This may not be the federal government's province. It's likely why they already lost the death penalty in the federal case. But that being said, they operate separately. They schedule separately. The judges are not on the phone to each other working out calendar dates. But it's up to the attorneys to figure out among them how to schedule this case.
You mentioned the schedules here. We know the state trial is slated to begin on September 8th. The federal trial does not have a start date yet. Why is that?
It's up to the reason why is there was so much litigation on getting the death penalty off the table that has set the federal case into sort of, and this happens all the time. Motions are granted, timelines get moved out, pushed out further and further. And as long as the defense is willing to waive what's called speedy trial in federal court, then with a complex case, and this is a complex case, the trial date can get pushed out for various reasons, and it has.
All right, Danny Savalos, good to have you with us. Thank you so much. This morning, hundreds of thousands of commuters are bracing for a very messy commute into New York City. Union workers for the Long Island Railroad took to picket lines over the weekend after going years without a new contract. It's the biggest commuter rail system in North America. Now it is at a standstill for the first time in more than 30 years. Reporter Kay Ingram from NBC New York has the latest from Penn Station.
Yeah, that's right. Listen, it's been a quiet morning so far, but of course that morning rush is going to happen soon. We want to bring you here to the front of the ticket booth. As you can see, signs here indicating there is no Long Island Railroad service at this time. The LIRR strike is ongoing. Today is day 3. The stations are closed. There are also signage around Penn Station telling folks that the strike is happening to stay safe. Of course, still no crowds at this hour, but you are getting a look here inside of Penn Station as folks mill around. We did speak with one guy earlier who mentioned he's trying to make his way to Long Island, but he doesn't know what he'll have to do. Maybe he'll have to transfer. He's here to visit family. But of course, this is just the beginning of day 3 here at Penn Station as day 3 of that strike continues.
More to come, Kay. Thank you so much. Now, investigators are working to figure out why 2 Navy jets collided mid-air during an Idaho air show on Sunday. The dramatic moment was caught on camera. The crews ejected, their parachutes deploying as thick black smoke filled the sky, both jets crashing to the ground in a massive fireball. Somehow, all 4 people on board survived. NBC News correspondent George Solis has more.
Jaw-dropping moments at an air show in Idaho, captured on camera.
The plane crashed.
Watch as these 2 U.S. Navy jets collide, go vertical, and then begin to spin as debris and flames ignite. Navy officials say the pilots collided while performing an aerial demonstration. Incredibly, you can see 4 parachutes deploy as the jets start to rapidly plummet towards the ground.
Stay where you are at this time. Again, I repeat, there have been 4 good parachutes that were seen.
The pilots floating just above as the wreckage explodes into a ball of fire and dust. Rich Rahill witnessed the dramatic moments.
We knew it wasn't good, but we've also been told that, we saw the 4 parachutes. That was a good sign.
Videos appearing to show the group landing back on the ground. Police say the dramatic collision resulting in the Mountain Home Air Force Base about 40 miles east of Boise to go on lockdown. The rest of the air show canceled.
Navy officials tell NBC News that all 4 of those pilots are still being evaluated and that this incident is still under investigation. Back to you.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.